welcome to Ask Me Anything About Politics. This is the show where you can ask me anything that you like about politics, and I will do my best to give you a great answer. I know that politics can be really intimidating when you're first trying to learn about it. I know it can feel like trying to learn a new language. So this is the show where you can ask all of your questions about politics without fear of getting roasted or judged or debated or anything like that. So everybody is welcome here, whether you are a left-wing person or a right-wing person, something on the outskirts, something in the middle. There's no roasting here or judgments or debating. It is just good faith answers to all of your good faith questions. We don't do harassments here or bullying or fighting or debating. It is just going to be good faith engagement in politics. And yeah, that's the whole vibe, guys. So if you got any questions about politics, just throw them in the chat and we will get to answering them. Everybody is welcome here, Republican, Democrat, everything in the middle and everything on the outskirts. There's no such thing as a dumb question. There's no such thing as a question that's too right-leaning or left-leaning. You don't have to worry about getting judged on your questions whatsoever here on Ask Me Anything About Politics. And I know that things are really weird with all the propaganda and misinformation out there, so this is where you can ask all those questions about what's actually going on and what are the legitimate news sources and what the fuck can we do about it? So yeah, throw your questions in the chat and we will get to answering them. What's up, Muzz King? Thank you so much for the gifts. I really appreciate it. Green Bay says, how will Republicans do in the midterms? So you really can't trust any kind of political predictions. This is not me sort of like, Nostradamusing my way into figuring out what the midterms are going to be like. I think that the Republican Party has really pissed off America. And there are a bunch of diehard MAGAs who are not going to really give a shit about what Trump does or how much worse their lives get. They're pretty consistent votes. All of the gerrymandering and all of the illegal voter suppression that the Republican Party has maintained is going to keep them competitive. But I'm also worried about all the other things that Trump and his coterie are going to try to do in order to lie, cheat, and steal their way into electoral victories in the midterms. So, we just have to keep on doing the work, and hopefully we can get some more Democrats in those seats. Curtis Krim says, Jesus loves you. Oh, that's very sweet. I like him too. But as a friend, I should mention. All right, great first questions, everybody. Welcome to Ask Me Anything About Politics. I'm here to answer all your questions about politics. So throw your questions in the chat and we will get to answering them. There's no such thing as a dumb question. Whether it is simple or complicated, I am here to answer your questions. Warzone Hunter says, Democrats only know how to send money to foreign countries. That is inaccurate, Warzone Hunter. Ask a question or I'm going to boot you. Western Frybread says, you think Dems will ever get rid of Schumer? Yes, but I think it needs to happen sooner rather than later. Like right now, Schumer is looking at retiring at the end of his term, and he wants to retire as Speaker. And I don't think that the Democratic Party should let him do that. I think that it is stupid for him to be able to do that. I don't think that he is representing his constituents well. And so, yeah, he's definitely going to be gone by the end of his most recent term. Both as Speaker and potentially as Senator, I think. Alrighty, let's see here. Green Bay. Now I know the right will dominate, says Green Bay. All right, cool. Dustin Strouch says wrong. What do you think I'm wrong about? Sports says they need to get rid of everybody. I wouldn't be mad at that, but let's focus on the Republicans first. Warzone Hunter says, why did Democrats send money to Ukraine while people needed help here in North Carolina and Hawaii? Well, the Democrats definitely gave North Carolina and Hawaii the necessary funds that they needed, and any idea that they didn't do that is misinformation and propaganda. But yeah, what about all the money that Trump sent to Argentina? Do you care about that? What about all the money that Trump wasted kidnapping the leader of Venezuela? Do you care about that? What about all the money that we're spending to house people in in CCOT in El Salvador? Do you care about that? Natu says, under Trump, crime dropped, inflation dropped, border crossing drops. How is he bad? Well, Natu, those are not the only metrics. I also don't believe that crime has dropped under Trump. I don't believe that inflation has dropped under Trump. Cost of living has continued to go up. People's healthcare costs are spiraling out of control. People's electricity costs are spiraling out of control. Unemployment is at record numbers right now. People's faith in the economy is at record lows right now. He is enabling ICE, which is straight up murdering people here in America. They are hostile to the Second Amendment, to the First Amendment, to the Fourth Amendment, to the Fifth Amendments. He is stealing money from the American people. He is making money off the presidency, which is wildly illegal and unethical. There's like so many things that Donald Trump is guilty of. Luminosity says, which sites do you think have the most unbiased fact-based news? I think so long as you're avoiding right-wing media, you're probably fine. But I would just say check out a news aggregator site like the Reddit news feed or ground news. Western Frybread says, for reals, I agree. We need someone that has minerals. I think I know what that means. Bossman says, Latinos for Trump. That's not a question, so you're out of here. I don't care if you disagree with me politically, but actually ask a question, be part of the conversation. Warzone Hunter says $800 per person is help, question mark. I do not believe that is an accurate number, Warzone Hunter. So I think it's clear that you get your information from sources that are biased against the left and are potentially inaccurate. So I don't trust that number. But Warzone Center also says, yep, both are guilty. Okay, well, which political party, Republicans or Democrats, actually spends more money on the 99%, and which political party spends most of their money helping the billionaire class? Woody says violent protest is a GOP lie. That is accurate. Let's see here. CS says, what about the floods in Texas? What did Trump and the Republicans do for those people? I do not believe that they did anything for those people. What's up, JP? Great to see you again over on Twitch. Warzone Hunter says, why would people vote for either party knowing they both don't help people? Warzone, I would argue that the Democratic Party does help people, and I can give you examples of that if you like. Natcat says, didn't Obama and Biden deport more people than Trump in his first term? It is accurate to say that, but it is also accurate to say that Biden and Obama did it in a way that was humane and legal and did not trample people's human rights, did not increase chaos in American cities, did not violate people's humanitarian rights by sending them to countries that they've never been to. We did not support brutal dictators in El Salvador by paying them to take people who had never fucking been to El Salvador before. And now they got people who have done nothing wrong sitting in torture prisons in El Salvador and other places. So yes, Natcat, it is accurate to say that by the numbers, you might have a point there, but our issue is not with how many, it is with why you are doing it and how you are doing it. Okay, let's see here. Dustin Stretch has explained why there's a party systems. Indeed, Honduras pardon. Indeed, Argentina money. Agree. I mean, I guess it's a good shorthand. Like if I know that somebody is running as a Democrat, I know that they are going to be more for the unions and they believe in climate change and they believe in gun control. And so, it's just a shorthand for, coalescing around certain ideas, I suppose. Natcat says, not to justify Trump, but to make the point that brutality isn't necessary. Yes, 100% Natcat, I agree with you. Woody says, go to the grocery store, sticker shock. That is accurate. Dustin says, great question. Where is unbiased news? You're not going to find any news that is without any bias, but you can find less bias by avoiding right-wing media. There are studies after study have shown that right-wing media is the least accurate of all media that you can find. BU fan says, are immigrants poisoning our nation's blood? No. And that rhetoric is very similar to what was happening in Germany in the 1930s and 40s. Woody says, how about those tariff checks? I think you and I agree, Woody, that they will never come. St. Chief Keith says, I'd argue throwing money at an issue isn't a solution. Yeah, but it makes it a lot easier to solve that problem if those people have money to actually, do things. St. Chief, are you thinking of something specific? Vodka Vision says, is it possible to enforce a political system without organized violence? Yes. Erica Chenoweth, political scientist, has argued, and I tend to believe with her, that nonviolent resistant movements have a much greater degree of success and accuracy than other movements. Let's see here. Cleveland says, this app needs to be gone. I don't know. I'm doing okay on it. Woody says, Biden and Obama didn't murder citizens. That is accurate. Jack says, far removal now than reaction as board under Obama/Biden. I'm not really sure what you're getting at that there, Jack. Maybe clean it up a little bit. No Saint says, thoughts on neo-libertarian phalangism. I'm not sure what that means. Awesome Sauce says, did you see in Texas the son with muscle disease died without care as his daddy was held by ICE? I did see that, and that is fucking infuriating. You know, the Biden and Obama administrations prove that you could do deportations, you know, humanely and without stomping on people's rights. So everybody should be really upset about what the Trump administration is doing and enabling. Joe Padilla, Muzz King, thank you so much for helping me reach my first gift goal of the day. It feels so weird to talk about gift goals after talking about the barbarism of the Trump administration and the fucking humanitarian crisis that it is enabling. Okay, Willie, great to see you again. Varo says, I have a question. Why is Trump so saggy? Terrible diet, doesn't exercise, is extremely old. MAGA versus the Fed just announced that interest rates will remain the same. All right, well, I think that's probably the best. Best for the time that we were living in. Okay. All right. Oof, boy, we are going. I'm gonna have to jump down to the bottom of the comments because I am hopelessly behind. So sorry if I skipped your comment. D. Scott, Joe Padilla, Nixon, thank you so much for helping me reach my second gift goal of the day. Joseph says, Trump, question mark? No, Jarrett's. And I'm not pro-Trump. I'm not a MAGA person. I know that's what you're asking. Willie says, are you anti-deportation? No, I believe that the Trump administration should be doing what they said they were going to do. They said that they were going to go after the worst of the worst. But I think it's something like 90% of the people that they are deporting have done zero crimes and have no criminal record. So it's like, make it make sense, you know? There's some chief of police over Minnesota was saying that he's receiving reports from citizens who are getting harassed by ICE and Customs and Border Patrol, and that 100% of the people who are reporting that are people of color. So I think we can see what's actually going on here, which is Stephen Miller is enabling his personal Gestapo to just harass, murder, detain, torture people of color because he's a racist. Tev 4K says, how do you feel about reparations? I'm open to them. I don't think America is open to them, though. Lucky, and also I think there's probably other ways that we can accomplish that goal of having more equitable society for marginalized communities. But, you know, I'm open to an argument for and against. Lucky Rachel says, did you hear some information about the Uganda thing? I did not, Lucky Rachel. If you want me to look into this issue, Lucky Rachel, send me a DM. But I often forget the things in the live stream as they're happening because things come in fast and furious. Lonnie Zone says, any thoughts on an age limit on presidents? I'm for it. Joseph says, if you come into the U.S., don't you have a criminal record? No, there are legal ways to come into the U.S. And I believe that it is immoral to deport somebody whose only crime is overstaying their welcome or crossing the border illegally if they have proven themselves to be model citizens and pillars of their community. Tev 4K says, we can send billions to ICE, so why not? I'm with you, my guy. Sophia says, do you agree with Dean Withers? Is on a specific issue? Like, did he say something recently that people are angry at him about? I'm not really sure what that is in reference to. Oh, JP, yes, that is accurate. It always be accurate. Triple says, who do you think the best president was? Oh, I've got no idea. I'm not really a history major. But everything that I hear about people like FDR and JFK, I think Obama did some great stuff. I think Biden did some great stuff. Clinton, we had our first, government surplus in generations, and then the next Republican administration completely fucking annihilated it. So, those guys did some pretty good stuff, I think. Joseph says, worst president? I think it's Donald Trump without question. I don't even think it's close. User a whole bunch of numbers says, why are you ignoring my question? It's not not everybody gets their questions answered. It is as I see them, because sometimes the questions come in fast and furious. So the answer to your question, user a whole bunch of numbers. Why am I ignoring your question? I'm not. I just didn't see your question. St. Chief Keef says, if we're in a country where these things make national headlines, things must be all right. Where what things make national headlines, St. Chief Keef? Henry Zakale says, how can Kristi Noem not be fired after lying about murder and calling everyone terrorists? Because that's what the Trump administration is fine with. What the Trump administration wants is for ICE and Customs and Border Patrol and Tom Homan and Greg Bovino and Stephen Miller to be enacting a terror campaign on people that they consider their enemies. And that's brown people, the LGBTQ community, people that vote for Democrats, people that say negative things about Trump, etc. And so, yeah, I think that if we want any accountability for people in the Trump administration, we are going to have to put pressure on the Republicans in Congress, or just replace them with Democrats in 26 and 28. Guy on the internet says, opinion on the far left. I don't know if we have a good definition of what the far left is, because in a recent poll, Americans were asked, is the Democratic Party too far to the left? And by a pretty large margin, America said yes. But if you ask them what that means, they list a bunch of things that the Democratic Party is not doing. And when they were asked, what would you like the Democrats to do? They list a bunch of things that the Democrats were doing. So it's clear that we don't really have good definitions for what it means to be far left or center left or Democrat or socialist or whatever. MacMan says, because we saw what happened to America when the Democrats were in power. Do you mean like small towns being revitalized thanks to the Inflation Reduction Act? Do you mean taking the inflation that was caused by Trump from 9% to 2.4%? Do you mean the first president to ever walk with a union during a strike? Because I can go on. Reducing healthcare costs, that also was all pretty fucking good. Joey says, I think you're a leftist Democrat, bud. I am. I'm a progressive Democrat. Karen says, Democrats didn't do anything but cry Trump. That is inaccurate, Karen. I can give you a bunch of things that Democrats have done in the past that are really good for everybody. User a bunch of numbers says inflation happened under Biden, not Trump. Well, there's a trailing effect sometimes for things that happen in the economy. User a bunch of numbers because these are massive systems that take a little while to click in. And I can tell you exactly why there was inflation during the Biden administration, and it was all caused by either Trump or the Republican Party in general. All right, ask me and I will tell you. Patrick Starr says, do you think we should take all the hoarded money from the rich and trickle it down? I mean, yeah, because it's not trickling down by itself, Patrick Starr. The whole point of trickle-down economics was that we weren't going to have to do that, right? Like the money was automatically going to trickle down, and it's not happening. So, we should take that money from the rich and give it to everybody else. User a whole bunch of numbers says, AKA blame Trump. Well, if a kid comes into my house and breaks everything with a bat, and then I say, hey, you broke everything in my apartment, am I blaming the kid, or did the kid actually do it? Let me know. Okay, I think it's interesting that you guys aren't asking me for the specifics or to prove this point. You're just telling me that I'm lying and that I'm wrong. Willie says, do you think increasing inflation to pay down our national debt would work? The only caveat would be trade being affected. That's an interesting question. It's a little over my head. I don't think that increasing inflation would work. I think that you do more damage to the national debt and to the America in general if you allow inflation to increase to the point where it would make it easier to pay the national debt. Seems like we could do this and solve a whole bunch of other problems by just taxing the rich. Okay, CS says, do you think the Dems should put a bill out to rename border to Melania because it's wide open? Pretty funny. Okay, MAGA versus the deficit and trade deficit are the same thing. Yes, that is accurate. Joe Padilla says, how's the baby coming? Coming along. We're almost at the third trimester. Very excited about that. Patrick Starr says, if it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, goddamn, it's a duck. Trump sucks. Yes, accurate, 100%. Woody says, trickle down is the rich get most of the money and keep it. Yes, that is accurate. 4 Years Strong says, no, Biden did, and then you acted like Trump did. 4 Years Strong, you, again, are not engaging on the substance. You are just saying, no, you're wrong, instead of actually offering any evidence or even asking me for my evidence. So ask a question, 4 Years Strong, or I'm going to boot you. Thank you, Austin Sauce. I appreciate that. Woody says, rename ICE to Gestapo. I think it's an important point that we are ignoring, which is that ICE is not the only agency that is active right now, that is doing Donald Trump's dirty work. And Customs and Border Enforcement is also part of that problem, So it's not just fixing or abolishing ICE. We got to abolish or fix the CPB as well. 4 Years Strong says, why did Biden say he couldn't stop the border problem, but then Trump stopped it immediately? Biden did not say that he couldn't stop the border problem, 4 Years Strong. Biden actually worked on a bill with the Republican Party to address the border issue, and then Trump killed it because he wanted to run on immigration as an issue. Let me know what you think about that 4 years strong. Cass says, do you believe the U.S. should be in Venezuela? No, I do not believe the U.S. should be in Venezuela. 4 years strong says exactly. I don't know what you're exactly saying. Trump killed the bill because he wanted to run on immigration as an issue. So instead of solving the problem or working with Democrats to solve the problem, 4 years strong says Trump did it without legislature. Yeah, illegally. Do you not care that Trump is doing things illegally? Do you not care? And also, what you think about as fixing the border is actually enabling more illegal immigration, because all that Trump did was make it harder for people to become legal immigrants if they are brown or poor. It is just white, rich people that we are allowing to immigrate now, which seems just like nakedly racist on its face and stupid. So yeah, Henry Zakale says, are you going to see the Melania movie? It looks hilarious. It's a self-satire mockumentary, it looks like. I don't know if I have patience for the Melania documentary. I also do not want to give that movie another click and more eyeballs. Maybe after some time has passed, that could be like a fun project, while I'm gardening or something. All right, G Scorpion says, were you this outspoken when Obama was doing this? Obama was not doing what Donald Trump is doing. Obama was deporting people, yes, but he was doing it humanely, and he was going after the worst of the worst. Trump is not doing that. They are just attacking, harassing, detaining, and murdering people that are standing up against them. They are doing it in a way that is inhumane and counterproductive. So Donald Sprankle says, but Paris Hilton has a movie coming out too. Yeah, that one looks really terrible also. Dare O'Brien says, what are your thoughts on the immigration state in Europe? I don't know enough about it. Creighton Bildstein says, the cages during Obama? Yeah, I don't understand. The person who built, I don't really care about the person who built the cage. I care about the person who did war crimes using the cages. Like, Obama didn't do war crimes using the cages. The Trump administration did, though. Dare O'Brien says, what are your thoughts on the immigration state? Oh, I already did that one. Let me Garden Master says, there are plenty of protests against Obama's immigration policy. That is accurate. Sophia says, do you support Keynesian economics? Yes, I do. I think it's called Keynesian. I never can remember how to pronounce that word. Keynesian, I think is how you pronounce it. I think it's Keynesian. Thistle Soup says, why has Republican Congress given up their power? Because they're either scared of Trump or they are down with the authoritarian fascist agenda. Austin says, thoughts on tariffs. They can be a very useful tool when they are wielded very specifically and carefully, like a scalpel, but that is not what Trump is doing. He started a trade war, America versus the world, and we are going to lose that trade war. And in fact, we are currently losing that trade war as China is now picking up all of the slack that America is left on the table. They are taking up all of our humanitarian efforts. They are forming the new foundation of trade agreements with all of our allies. So I hope you guys are cool with the dollar not being the reserve currency anymore and the bond market crashing and hyperinflation fucking ruining all of your 401ks and shit like that. Dare O'Brien says, are you a democratic socialist? I call myself a progressive Democrat, but I'm sure that some people would argue that there's no daylight between those two positions. I will say that pretty much every politician who has described themselves as a democratic socialist, I've been about it. Nick Carter, Master Detective, says, this guy probably won't mention Netanyahu or AIPAC. Yes, I will. I don't like either of those things. Kane is the front part of Keynesian. Yeah, I think I'm there. Donald Sprankle says, more people are going to see one showing of Iron Lung TGA than all the showings of the two Pimbos. That's pretty funny. Okay, let's see here. Nick Carter says, oh, wow, nice. Yeah, Nick Carter. Yeah. Maybe you want to fucking take down the temperature, Nick Carter. You come in fucking caps lock blasting, saying this guy's not going to fucking talk any shit about Netanyahu or AIPAC. Maybe you can take down the temperature a little bit. Maybe you can come into these chats with a little bit more respect for whoever is doing the talking, fucking assuming the worst about everybody, man. Just fucking chill out, man. Alrighty, Sophia says, but shouldn't the U.S. protect domestic manufacturing over global by using tariffs? Yeah, Sophia, that is 100% a thing that tariffs can do, but it needs to be specific. Like, that Trump put tariffs on a country that's just like all penguins, right? Having a trade deficit is not the same thing as protecting domestic manufacturing. Like, I have a trade deficit with my grocery store. That's fine. Poor countries that have diamonds are going to have a massive trade. We're going to have a massive trade deficit with them because they can't afford to buy any of the things that we can make, but we're out there fucking taking all their diamonds, you know? Okay, Nick Carter says, your name is problematic. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, do you mean my name Berenstein? You mean the fact that I'm a Jewish person? That's a fucked up thing that you just said, Nick Carter, you know? So you're going to just say that every Jewish person is on the side of AIPAC and Netanyahu. Like, that's wildly offensive. And I'm going to beg you to be better going forward, my guy, because goddamn, like, I'm in coalition with you as far as like wanting to stand up to AIPAC and Netanyahu, and you have just really fucking rubbed me the wrong way, my guy. Nick Carter says, that's why I assumed all good. I'm listening. Okay, I appreciate that you're listening, my guy. But you can't do that going forward. You can't see a fucking Cohen or a Goldman or whatever and then just immediately assume like this guy's a fucking, you know, Netanyahu stan over here, my guy. Yeah, that's messed up, dude. Austin says, did Israel sell my parlay last night because I swear it was locks? I don't know anything about that. It's the Rocketeer. Great to see you again. Says, who knew that the Republicans would flip on the Second Amendment so easily? Yeah, that should really piss off everybody, including people on the right. It's the Rocketeer says, can't ruin my 401k if I could never afford to start one anyways. That's really funny. And you have my sympathies, of course. Lily says, do you think China holding massive U.S. Treasury bills is bad for U.S. national security? Yeah, I mean, I think that adversarial nations having that much sway over our economy and being able to crash our economy whenever they want is obviously a concern. I'm not sure if there are safeguards for that. That's not really my area of expertise. But yeah, obviously it is. Johnny says, how are the kids, Jarrett? So, you know, we got one cooking. That's basically it. Sophia says, overall, would you say that you are more supportive of Israel or Palestine? You know, it's complicated, Sophia. Here's the simplest way that I can put it. I'm for the citizens of both countries. I am against the governing bodies of both countries. Because Israel is the more powerful country, I believe that it is their responsibility to wage peace with their neighbors. But that is not what they have been doing for a very long time. All right, Patrick Stark says, everybody's saying Trump making things better, yet the average person can't run out of the studio. That is accurate. Let's see here. Ricardo Aguado says, bananas and rice. I've never had that before. Sounds like a weird flavor combination. Let's see here. Shay Cruel, good to see you again. Where's Pam Bondi and the Epstein files? Excellent question. Kelly says, thoughts on the FBI raid in Georgia. Is that a new thing? Did that just happen? Because I don't know anything about it. Alrighty, let's see here. Awesome Sauce says, did you see the person left in critical condition after being shot by Border Patrol? Yeah, I did hear about that. You know, I don't know if this is funny. Maybe I never usually do this, you know, but I was thinking about this as a potential stand-up joke. You guys let me know what you think about this. Because I'm a stand-up comedian. That is my other thing that I do. And I was thinking about, like, I don't want to hear about what ICE and Customs and Border Patrol are doing. Like, I don't want to hear about the atrocities. I think that it's really important that everybody else hear about them, but I don't want to hear about them. And I don't think that I need to hear about them because I know what they're doing already. Like, I don't need to hear about it because I know about it. I don't know the specifics. I don't know how many people they have murdered or what those people's names are or how they're being murdered. I know it's happening, you know. You never have to tell me, did you hear that ICE blanked a blank, where the first blank is a horrible thing like murdered or raped or whatever, and then the second blank is just like the most comically innocent sounding person of all time, a nurse, a nun, you know, the twinkle of hope in a young child's eyes, you know, shit like that. Are there any legs on that bit, guys? Let me know what you think about that. Willie says, do you think the U.S. was justified in disarming Iranian nuclear facilities? I think that that it was stupid. It may have been justified, but it was stupid because what do we set back their nuclear program by a couple of months, where if we had not thrown the Iran nuclear deal in the garbage, it is possible that they would never have a nuclear weapon. Joe Padilla and Kelly, thank you so much for helping me reach my third gift goal of the day. And now, you know what time it is, guys. It's the best part of every day. It is... No, I can't find it. Oh, what a bummer. I can't find my my regular number 2 gift that I always go to after that. Oh, that's a bummer. How do I find it? These are all right. I guess we're gonna go. I guess we're going golden buzzers now because I can't find my finger hearts. So it's golden buzzers o'clock, everybody. Golden buzzers o'clock. All right. Brian Barbita says, does the Democrats' wide spectrum hurt or harm them? That is a really good question, Brian. And here's the thing. The way that you fuck up a group, country, whatever, is divide and conquer. And so the fact that Democrats are a rainbow coalition, a big group that's made up of a bunch of little groups, it makes us prime for dividing and conquering. Now, that being said, if we can decide as individual left-leaning people that we're not going to fall for that shit, if we are not going to fall for starting a fight, progressives versus centrists, or abolish ICE versus reform ICE, or Kamala's a cop versus Kamala would be way better than Donald Trump, those people. If we cannot fall for that, then our diversity can be our strength. Then our rainbow big tent coalition can be unstoppable. The problem is that we have been sort of like letting the right divide us. We have been accepting all of their billionaire-funded propaganda and misinformation. We have been believing that the worst version of a left-wing person that we see on the internet is, the way that the left wing actually exists. And so, the same, if you look, there's this chart that just went around on social media showing how much political spending by billionaires has increased since Citizens United. And it's stunning. It's shocking. It's like it used to be 500 million and now it's like 50 billion. That's how much they're spending on elections now. And the reason why that number just keeps on going up and up and up is because it works. So we need to show the billionaire class and the Republican Party that their money is not going to work on us anymore. Okay, Common Killer says, Democrats have all the rich people, but Dems never talk about it. You guys are being scammed. That is not accurate, Common Killer. Are you open to new information, or are you just here to spread misinformation? Let me know. Kelly says, Citizens United ruined us. I mean, it did a lot of damage. Cass says, are you pro-capitalism? I am exactly as pro-capitalism as I am pro-communism and pro-socialism. I think that all these systems can work together, and in fact, they are. In America, in Canada, in Europe. It's just the scale is different. We have too much capitalism here, not enough socialism and communism. We need more of what they have in like Norway and Sweden and shit like that, as far as employee-owned companies and socialized healthcare, etc. Brian Barbita says, I think it just makes us seem less unified to a certain point, but I understand your point. Yes, it is much more difficult to coalesce around messaging when you are a diverse group of people, when you are a rainbow coalition. And so that's part of the reason why people think that Democrats suck at messaging, is because it's hard to get a bunch of little groups to all agree on what the great messaging can be. Tweedledum says, the Democratic Party should have accepted Bernie. Now they're a party lost. I disagree that they are a party lost. And yeah, I think that the Democratic Party kind of did Bernie dirty. Yeah, but I also think that Bernie lost both of those primaries fair and square. Kelly says, would you ever consider running for office? I would consider it. I think that the odds that I actually do it ever are slim to none. Brian Barbita says, are you for DEI or against? I am for, Brian. I'm happy to go into more details on that if you like. Sophia says, I'm also against both nations, but yes, there's a huge power imbalance. I don't know how people still support Israel. I mean, I think it's fine to support the citizens that are living in Israel. I am fine. Those are people just like you and me trying to live their fucking lives. So long as you are not one of those people that is actively stealing people's homes in Palestine or kicking people out of their settlements and building your own shit there. If you are not an Israeli citizen that is actively annexing Palestinian territory or abusing Palestinians, then, you're probably a relatively nice human being. Okay, Kami Killa says, DEI is racist. You don't want to merit-based. You are brainwashed. Congratulations, Kami Killa. I gave you an opportunity, and you squandered it, so now you are out of here. You kill commies, I kill your mom's pussy. Okay, Lauren, great to see you again. Somebody whose name I can't Reed says, if there was less capitalism, then there would be less competition, less jobs, less options. Disagree. I do not believe that is accurate at all. Let me know if you'd like to discuss that in more detail. Brian Barbita says, I think abolition of political parties would be tremendous for America. Thoughts? I don't know. I don't know. I think that there is a useful shorthand for having some of these definitions. I don't know how that world looks logistically without political parties. I'm open to that argument. I just don't think it's not a slam dunk in my opinion. Okay, let's see here. Let's see here. Sophia suggests I meant the governments of Israel, not the citizens. Excellent. Chris Paul says, have you read the National Defense Strategy? What are some key points to you? Chris Paul, I'm not 100% sure what you're referring to. I know that there was a document that the Department of Defense put out recently that was like, our enemies are in Europe, shit like that. Is that what you're referring to? John Bradley says, who do you believe will be the unifying personality that Dems need to rally behind? I don't know who that person's going to be. It's possible that it's somebody that we haven't even started thinking about yet. And I also am not 100% sure that we need that one person. So long as we can, so long as we are open to forming coalitions with people that don't agree with us 100%, then I think we can exist as a more, diverse political collective than just looking for our next Barack Obama to follow. V, good afternoon to you as well. Ben Peterson says, what do you think that Trump could do involving ICE to make people less on edge? Some oversights would be nice, obviously, Ben Peterson. It's an interesting question because it's like this is a problem that Trump caused. He inflamed these tensions. He created this unaccountable, personal Gestapo that is being run by the most evil, shitty, racist person in his cabinet, Stephen Miller. So it's like, how can he take things down a notch? I don't know, undo all of that shit that he did, stuff like that. Italiana says, how are we looking come midterms? It's good, Italiana, but we need it to be better. Sophia says, what specific reform do you think is needed in the police system while still keeping laws enforced? I thought we did this one yesterday, Sophia. Basically, I think we need more civilian oversight. I think we need to divide the police into different sort of like groups. Like, I don't think the police should be sent out to deal with somebody who's having a mental health crisis because that's not what they're trained for. That's like my only example for that. I'm sure that there are others. People that are experts in this specific issue can give you more stuff. But yeah, citizen oversight, breaking the police into separate departments. Shit like that. Okay. Yeah, baby. Great to see you again. Says, word on the streets is that folks are trying to organize a nationwide strike protest. If this happened, would you provide a free stand-up comedy set for the strikers protesters? Yes, 100%. I would do that if people wanted me to do that. I am here for that project. Matthew Low Daddy says, right or left? Left. Italiana says, are we headed towards a civil war against ICE? The only thing that makes what's going on with ICE not a civil war right now is that the people that ICE are murdering are not shooting back at them. Brian Barbita says, I think party misleads people from using their own senses like Republicans with ICE right now. Potentially, Brian. Yeah, I'm open to that argument. But again, I want to see what the world looks like without those political parties. Will the political parties just start operating clandestinely instead of out in the open if we make it, being a part of a political party illegal? Dell says, thoughts on anarcho-capitalism? I'm not 100% sure what it means, but it sounds like something that I'm against. Ben Peterson says, what are your thoughts on the food pyramid being flipped and prioritizing proteins first? Seems like some real, loosey-goosey, non-science-based, health influencer kind of RFK nonsense. All right. Somebody whose name I can't read says, there's dirty cops who plant evidence. Not all cops are bad, so not all ICE agents are bad either. I don't know if I agree that not all ICE agents are bad. I think that if you see what ICE is doing and CBP is doing right now, and you don't resign, then you are bad. Full stop. Okay, Brian Barbados says it's more of an ideal world, not reality. LOL, just a thought. Yeah, I'm open to it. You know, Brian. Again, I want to see how that works. Jendon Surly says, what do you think of Trump? There are not enough negative words in the dictionary for me to accurately describe Donald Trump. He is an idiot. He is incompetent. He is corrupt. He is evil. He doesn't give a shit about anybody but himself. He's he's a liar. He's a narcissist. He's been violent towards women. He has cheated on every woman and business partner and worker that's ever worked for him. Yeah, like hands down, one of the biggest pieces of shit to have ever existed. Jendon says, what do you think of Ilhan Omar? I think she's great. I don't really have any issues with her. Ben Peterson says, is the National Guard in Minnesota there to face ICE or to prevent/stop unrest? I think I can't tell you exactly what their purview is, but I think that the idea behind sending them in is that there will be another force there to stop ICE from escalating things. That's my general take on that. Okay, Sucus Dubois says he's dying. Who's dying? Cass says thoughts on Marxism and Leninism. I think that those terms have different definitions depending on who you talk to. The way that I view Marxism and Leninism is workers create most of the value, but the owners get most of the value. And so the workers end up living on starvation wages. It's basically just like a form of wage slavery. So I believe in fixing that model by incentivizing companies to be employee owned and supporting unions and things like that. Okay, Sophia says, do you think the government should be allowed to require people to get vaxxed? Ooh, that's a really good question, Sophia. And honestly, I don't know. There's a part of me that's like, that does seem like a violation of people's civil liberties. But then another part of me is like, but it's a public health issue. And if I can stop people from dying unnecessarily and we can stop these diseases from mutating to being more deadly and contagious, like that seems to be something that the government should be 100% able to force us to do. So yeah, I think it's a complicated issue. I think that we as citizens of this country need to sort of like unbrainwash ourselves into thinking that we as individuals are the most important thing. I think we need to start thinking about what are our contributions to our community. And my contribution to my community is getting vaccinated so that I am not a vector for disease that can then mutate and be harder to stop and harder to treat and is going to kill more people, more vulnerable populations. Yeah, stuff like that. Awesome Sauces, how do you feel about those TikTok lives where a Republican and Democrat beg for donations? Oh, I hate them. I hate them so much. I am part of a live agency, and they have encouraged me to try to do those quote-unquote battles. And I'm just like, it's just so fucking stupid. Like, I'm not, this is not what I'm here for. I'm not here to beg for money. You know, we are about 18 minutes away from me telling you that you can give me money if you like, but I believe that you should put on a show. You should do something for people. The show is not us begging for money. Like, that's not the way that should work, in my opinion. Okay. Dare O'Brien says, do you believe tariffs can work if we want to be more self-sufficient? Yes, but they need to be used carefully and specifically, like a scalpel, as opposed to the way that Trump is doing it, which is like a shotgun. You know, you're supposed to do this specific thing in this specific country for this specific reason. But Donald Trump is doing tariffs, America versus the rest of the world. And we're going to lose that because, you know, the rest of the world is bigger than us. V, Muzz King, Lady Lisa, and Kelly, thank you so much for helping me reach my first golden buzzer goal of the day. We're not doing finger hearts because I cannot find them for the life of me. All right, golden buzzer number 2. Here we go. All right, Not Jake says, would you ever be open to having people like guests? Yeah, I have guests on sometimes. It's not something that I do regularly, but I am open to it, and I have done it in the past. I'm very mercurial about it. I just do it whenever I feel like it. There's no rules or consistency to it. Brian Barbita, has Trump done anything good in your opinion? He has done a couple of things that I support, but I disagree with this narrative that people need to be able to find the silver lining in this giant pile of crap in order to prove how unbiased they are. Like, why do I have to point out that the dude who stabbed me in the neck has really nice eyes? Like, it seems unfair to force us to do that. And it also seems like we're kind of, I don't know, whitewashing this person's record by saying, they did some good things and some bad things. I mean, 99% of what Donald Trump is doing is damaging, corrupt, ruining people's lives, enriching himself, lying, creating chaos, ruining all of our alliances, creating more global instability, etc. But do I think getting rid of the penny was a good idea? Sure, absolutely. Danny says, anyone would have been better than Trump. That is accurate. Dare O'Brien says, thoughts on people boycotting the World Cup here? I'm for it. Boycott. That is one of the tools in our belt, guys. Use it. Cass says, thoughts on the vote blue no matter who philosophy. The fact that it's a phrase like that, I think kind of invalidates the point of it. But I do think that it is a totally valid way to vote. I think that if you have a very strong opinion about who you want the Democratic candidates to be, you want them to be more progressive, you want them to be more centrist, whatever, then go out and do the work in the primary to get that specific Democrat elected to that seat. But once that person has won that seat, then I think we have to be like, vote blue no matter who. Because the Republican Party has gone fucking insane. Like, that's the sort of like headline of all of these live streams, is like, what they're doing is fucking bananas, and it's hurting people, and it's illegal, and it's ruining the country and the world. Like, no hyperbole here, guys. Like, it's fucked up what the Republican Party is doing, enabling, encouraging, condoning. Like, it's fucked up, guys. And that's not even harsh enough. That is not even harsh enough language. They should have 0% approval rating. There should be 0 Republicans in office from president down to fucking dog catcher. Like, that is how bad what they are doing is. And the fact that they have not suffered greater electoral consequences for the things that they have done and enabled and condoned, I think is evidence of how powerful billionaire-funded propaganda is. And the electoral systems being weighted in their favor. The Electoral College, the Senate map, partisan gerrymandering, like, all of that gives Republicans a massive advantage in getting elected. In addition to all the additional money that they have, in addition to all their propaganda channels, in addition to all of these social media channels being owned by right-wing billionaires, it's been very, very effective. And the Democratic Party, as flawed as it is, compared to the Republican Party, is basically perfect. If we're grading on a scale, the Democratic Party has a 4.0 grade average. Alrighty, let's see here. V says, is it true that they're in Minnesota because they're trying to mess with the voting polls? So V, I think that there's not necessarily one motivation for all of the terrible things that Trump and his coterie are doing. You know, like, people will argue like, oh, the Venezuela thing is a distraction from the Epstein files, or the Epstein files are a distraction from what ICE is doing, or whatever. There are a bunch of different motivations. It is part culture war. It is part voter suppression. It is part militarizing American cities. It is part punishing dissidents and trying to scare people into obedience. You know, there's a lot of benefits to their agenda for everything that they are doing. You know. Bambi says, how did anyone vote for this mess? No judgment, but question. Billionaire-funded propaganda, massive misinformation campaigns, massive campaign finance violations, decades of anti-democratic bias in both mainstream and right-wing media. And incumbency bias that was felt across the globe in 2024 because of COVID. Yeah, there you go. Sophia says, if ICE was abolished, how do you think we would enforce border security? So ICE was only created, I think, in 2004 after 9/11 because they wanted more of a homeland security vibe for, you know, border enforcement. And Customs and Border Enforcement were doing that, so they can go back to doing that again. But I think that organization also needs massive reform, because let's not forget that they are responsible for a lot of the chaos that we're seeing in Minnesota, in addition to what ICE is doing. March of 2003. Thank you very much, Joshua Tiffany. Dunning-Kruger Mofo says Democrats were the side of deportation. Now they are crazy. I don't agree with that at all, Dunning-Kruger. Would you like to ask a question? Oh, yes. Carmine, I really wanted to see that comment that you pinned, but then it went away. What the fuck? What happened there? Brian Barbitta says, agree, but don't both parties use billionaire propaganda? So it is true that both political parties take money from the billionaire class, but there are massive substantive differences between the way that the Democratic Party takes billionaire money and the way that the Republican takes billionaire money. So number one, just the amount of billionaire money that Republicans get is way more than what Democrats get. You know, billionaire political donations have gone 75% to Republicans in 2024. And, you know, I don't know the stats before that, but it's basically been the same. Why would a billionaire give money to a Republican versus a Democrat? Well, the Republican Party cuts taxes and cuts regulations for billionaires. So that is a synergistic relationship. It is mutually beneficial. We give you money to win elections. You win elections. You cut our taxes, which gives us more money that we can give to you to help you win elections, and cut our regulations. And then you win elections, and then you cut our taxes more and cut regulations more, which gives us more money that we can give to you to help win elections, et cetera, et cetera. But there are other billionaires who believe that this is an unsustainable system, like Warren Buffett. You know, there was something like, I don't know, 80 or 500 billionaires over at Davos who were saying, you need to raise our taxes. This is unsustainable. So some billionaires give money to Democrats for that. When billionaires who are hostile to the Democratic platform give them money, they do it with the intention of trying to water down the pro-worker, pro-99% agenda of the Democratic Party. And it's effective. But a watered-down Democratic platform is still better than the Republican platform, because the Republican platform is still trickle-down economics and cutting taxes for the billion and cutting regulations for these businesses so that they can poison us with the chemical runoff from all their factories and shit like that. And when you give that money to Republicans, it just supercharges that agenda, as opposed to softening the more populist economic agenda of the Democratic Party. So yeah, there's just a couple of reasons why it's different. And so, yeah, I think that just based on that, I think it is way more accurate to say that the Republican Party is the party of the billionaire class and the Democratic Party is the party of the people. Carmine says, bro, just summarized Dark Money off of one question. There's a lot more in Dark Money, Carmine. Y'all need to read Dark Money. Y'all really need to read Dark Money. Hold on, JP put something interesting over on Twitch. U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi sent a letter to Minnesota Democratic Governor Tim Walz demanding the state take 3 specific actions before federal immigration agents would consider reducing their presence in Minneapolis, including handing over voter rolls, be given the state's voter registration records, and that the state repeal these sanctuary policies and share its records on Medicaid and food and nutrition service programs. Yes, JP. So it is definitely part of their motivation to try to fuck with elections. Brian B says, hi, Jared. I am a Democrat, but only because I find them the lesser of two evils. You know, Brian, I would argue that the Democrats are better than being the lesser of two evils. I would go so far as to say that the Democratic Party is good. And I don't believe that the massive mistakes that they have made, are equal to the good that they have done. But I think, we're grading on a curve here. I could have phrased that whole section there better, Brian. Just letting you know. I need to have a more nuanced and elegant way of phrasing that. User a bunch of says, why do you think reps are scared of vaccinations? Misinformation propaganda. Van Helsing Van Rupert says, so you are Democratic and against Republicans. I am a Democrat. I'm a progressive Democrat. I am against Republican politicians and right-wing thought leaders like Ben Shapiro, Alex Jones, Elon Musk, the Daily Wire, shit like that. User a whole bunch of numbers says, it just confuses me a lot because evidence says otherwise. What, you mean the vaccines? Yeah. propaganda doesn't need information. Brian B says, but the money is still a problem. Yes, Brian B, the money is a problem, but why is the money a problem? Is it because Supreme Court justices who were installed by Republican Party politicians loosened campaign finance laws to make it so that billionaires could donate unlimited amounts of money, dark money donations to political candidates? Look at the Supreme Court cases. Look at who's behind them, people like Ted Cruz. Look at what they are doing. They are making it easier for people to bribe politicians and Supreme Court justices. They are making it harder to spot. They are making it more legal. They are making it easier to get away with. All right, let's see here. Somebody's name. What is your name? Is it Fiverr? Is it Giver? How do you pronounce that? So this person says the left calls Trump a diddler while the left makes laws to protect PDF files. The left does not make laws to protect PDF files, whatever your name is. Big Lou says, I have never heard an intelligent Democrat. Well, I'm an intelligent Democrat. Oh, it's pronounced server. Got it. All right, server, good to know. Dare O'Brien says, do you believe Zelensky purposely started the war in Ukraine? No. Oh, my God, Dare. That is the opposite of what happens. Zelensky is just protecting his country. He did not start the war in Ukraine, not even by a little bit. Big Lou says, Democrat protectors of child molesters. That is inaccurate, Big Lou, and I'm just going to go ahead and block you right now because I don't have the patience to lead you by the hand to being better. Let's see here. Sophie says, I'm not scared of the vax, but I do think some of them can be unnecessary or not fully needed. Again, Sophia, I can appreciate that. I think it's a little selfish. I think it's a little selfish to not get vaccinated when you could be a vector for spreading disease to vulnerable people and also be a vector for diseases mutating and becoming worse. Let's see here. Brian B says, all true, but when the Dems were in power, they did nothing to change it. No, they tried to, Brian, but Republicans filibustered it. And, when you have a 0-seat majority in the Senate, you cannot afford to lose a single vote, which means that the most Republican senators were able to dictate what got passed during the Biden administration. All of these systems were tried to be fixed under Democratic administrations, but it was always Republican intransigence or the most right-leaning member of the Democratic Party that either stopped it or watered it down or whatever. So yeah, I can give you more examples if you like, but yeah, that's the long and short of it, Okay. Wabi145 says, do you think the government should incentivize corporations to issue pensions for retirees instead of 401ks? I believe that's the way that it used to work, would be. And so I'd be down for going back to that system. Let's see here. Misty Lane says, hello, ice guy. Did you mean to call me an ice guy or a nice guy? Because you know that I don't fuck with ice, right, Misty Lane? Space Plum says, so what do you think of TikTok's new policy that anything that isn't pro-Zionist is now hate speech? I don't know how new of a policy that is. And I'm also, when things just happen, there tends to be like a lot of hyperbole and misinformation that comes out about it. So I am reserving judgment of the new TikTok overlords until I get more substantive reporting on what they are doing or are not doing. Alrighty. I mean, I should preface that by saying I find it very credible that is something that they would do and potentially are doing. I just want to make sure that I'm spitting facts here and not conjecture. Excuse me. Oh my goodness. Bass Horizon says all the parties are owned by foreign governments. That is inaccurate. Rio says, what are you doing, Boar? Are you calling me a bore? Folded Eagle says, why won't you speak about the fraud? Minnesota, California, Maine, it's real abuse. Folded Eagle, why won't you speak about the fraud in Texas? There was just a massive multi-billion-dollar fraud that was discovered in Texas. Do you only have a problem with fraud in blue states, Folded Eagle? Do you not have a problem with the fraud in Florida and Texas? Let me know. What do you think about that, Rio? So Rio's calling me a bore, which is hilarious because I bored a hole in his mom's pussy with my dick last night. Folded Eagle says, I have a big issue with any fraud. All right, well, you only mentioned Minnesota, California, and Maine. So it doesn't seem like Florida and Texas are top of mind because they're red states. So seems pretty interesting to me. Okay, let's see here. Sowell says, are you claiming the fraud in other states are as high as Minnesota? No, so I am claiming that the fraud in other states is higher than in Minnesota, and there's plenty of reporting on that. I can forward you any information. I got reported for bullying. You know what that means, guys? You know what that means? That means, because I never said shit about anybody until I blocked them. You know, I blocked, and then I said I fucked their mom. So that means that there are people watching this live right now that are only watching for me bullying people. So whoever you are, congratulations. You're not going to shut me up. Alrighty. Okay, Mr. R says, my boss just said what the fuck you're listening to. Well, I hope he's down with the program. All right, I'm going to have to start. Let's see here. CJ says, restart the live. No, I'm at an hour. I usually start wrapping up here. Anyways. Calico Cassidy says, thoughts on the ratchet theory. I don't know what that is. Misty Lane says, why won't more rich people and Democrats help protesters protest against ICE with mutual aid? I don't know. I don't know what their I don't know what it looks like. I don't know what their current donation levels look like therein. I'd be interested in seeing some reporting on that. And I would be interested in seeing their statements on it. Why aren't they giving more, you know? Okay. Sean Crown says, you're a saint. You do this every day? ? That's very sweet of you. But I do it every weekday, Monday through Friday, starting around 11:30 a.m. Pacific time. All right. So I was in the middle of an engagement with somebody in the comments right before I got, what do you call it? Right before I got reported. So well, cared about the frauds. All right, I guess everything wrapped up. Nobody really. Folded Eagle says, I'm a Republican. Would you speak about our financial? Would you speak about our financial fraud? I will fight it. I don't know what that means, Folded Eagle. So you're a Republican, and if I'm speaking about Republican financial fraud, you will fight the financial fraud, or you will fight me. Let me know. Okay, let's see here. CJ says, have you noticed a big difference in the algorithm with new owners? Not yet. Rangeron says, who's the greatest president ever? I don't know. Dare O'Brien says, why would Zelensky try and join NATO knowing well that could cause a war? Why would joining an organization to protect yourself from Russian aggression start the war? It's giving, look what you made me do vibes, Dare O'Brien. And you know that I know that you've been here asking questions in good faith all day. So I hope that you're not taking my tone as being like anti-you or mad at you, But yeah, there is this persistent narrative that somehow Ukraine is responsible for their own invasion. And I find that to be specious Republican Russian propaganda. Ready. Folded Eagle says, speak about financial fraud on the Republican side, please. I will fight to stop Republicans. All right, I'm down with that. I am down with that, Folded Eagle. Let's stop all the fucking fraud. Let's stop all the fucking corruption, whether it's left, right, or center. My guy, let's do it. Glad to have you on the team. Okay, the Fiction Mike says, love to be in a wacky riff session with you sometime. Gallows humor. I guess that's sort of what we're doing here on the live stream. I noticed nobody had anything to say about my potential bits that I suggested earlier. All right, guys, I'm going to do my outro, and then I'll get to any final comments that come in. Regular streaming schedule is Monday through Friday, starting around 11:30 a.m. Pacific time. If you want to support the show financially, you can, but you don't have to. Special thanks to everybody that is already doing that. Everybody who sent gifts on my live stream today, y'all are heroes. My patrons, my super fans, my subscribers, Grimicus, Robert, Shannon, Carmine, Patrick, Dan Blackroyd, and the two Seans. Y'all are heroes. But yeah, you can become a super fan on TikTok. You can become a subscriber on Twitch. And if you have Amazon Prime, you can become a subscriber on Twitch for free. And that helps me out a ton. You can also join my Patreon for as little as $1 a day. And I have a store that you can buy things from on my website. I have a stand-up special coming out this Saturday at 10 a.m. Pacific time. And I would love it if you guys would watch it live. I'm going to be there watching it live with you guys. I'll be in the chat on YouTube. I'm really proud of the special. I worked super hard on it, so I hope you guys will check it out. Links are in the bio. Let's see here. If there's any questions that I was not able to get to today or that come up later, DMs are open. Do not be shy about reaching out to me. I do not care if you send me multiple messages over multiple platforms. I want to be a resource for you guys. I want to be a way that you can be more involved and informed about what's going on in politics. And so let me do that for you. Hit me up either via my website or through my DMs or through my Discord channel. Use me and abuse me. Use me until I am all used up. I recommend the Discord channel even if you're not trying to get in touch, because it's a great community and there's great recommendations there for books and podcasts and for nonprofit organizations that desperately need your help. They need your time, they need your donations, and their goals are your goals. So if you're sitting there at home thinking, I can't help what's going on right now in Minnesota, in Iran, in Venezuela, wherever, you can make a difference. These organizations, they want you, they need you. So go out there and do the work, because there's only us doing the work that is going to get us out of this problem. The Democratic Party, for as much as they want to, do not have the money, power, or resources to solve this by themselves. America did not vote for them, and now we are fucked. So we have to do the work of spreading that message, of unelecting every Republican from president to dog catcher, of fixing all of this misinformation and propaganda that is running rampant out there, talking to our friends and family, recruiting, convincing. Like, that is our job now, because we can have a better country. We just have to do the work to actually make it happen. And yeah, I think that's it, everybody. And yeah, just generally speaking, thank you so much for being here. All right, Calico says the ratchet theory is the idea that Dems only stop the Republicans from making things worse, but don't actually do anything to improve. I do not buy that theory at all, Calico. There are many examples that I can give of Democrats making things better. Average Joe, late to today's party. If you already covered this, I apologize. What's your opinion on the idea that no amount of ICE protests will be effective until local PD is convinced to side with the protesters instead of siding with Capitol? You know, I don't know. It's hard to answer that question, because number one, I do feel like the protests have been effective, and also local PD is on their side already. So it's a chicken and egg thing. I can't tell you if it was working and then the police joined, or the police joined and then it started working. But I do believe in nonviolence resistance, and so I have faith that those protests would have worked even if local PD was not involved. Wabibi says, do you think the U.S. should implement more nuclear power plants for cheap, clean, low environmental impact energy? Yes, but with a caveat. It takes a lot of time to build a nuclear energy facility. And so the 10 years that it would take to build more nuclear facilities, we could potentially have nuclear fusion technology by then. We could potentially have so much solar and wind and hydroelectric and geothermal that we don't even need the nuclear power plant that we just spent a couple $2 billion to build. I know that they are looking into these sort of like mini nuclear reactors that operate on a much smaller scale and are potentially much easier to handle and quicker to build. So I would be down for that. And I think that we should continue using the nuclear plants that we currently have, but I don't know if starting right now is the best use of our time. Oh, let's see here. Average Joe says, when I said effective, I meant ultimately successful. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's a hard metric to judge by, because what is ultimately successful, you know? Donald Trump can take all of ICE and Customs and Border Patrol out of Minnesota. Does that mean that that protest was successful? But then what if they come back a month later? You know, like, yeah, it's like Dr. Manhattan said at the end of Watchmen. You know, like, there is no, you know, at the end, was this worth it? Or, you know, I forget whatever phrase he used. Real Bender says, as more information comes out, Kristi Noem looks like the fall guy. Why did she rush to defend agents? Because that they believed that they would be able to get away with that. J.D. Vance, Stephen Miller, Kristi Noem, Pam Bondi, like and Donald Trump too, they thought that they could make up whatever fucking shit they wanted, and they could intimidate people into cowering in their homes and stopping their protest and dissent. They believed they were going to get away with it. I don't know if anybody's going to be losing their jobs from that. Greg Bovino got demoted. That's such a paltry excuse for accountability. We need to demand more. We need to demand more. We always need more. Let's see here. Ollie Beck says, what do you think about Ireland today announcing that they may ban social media for under 16s? I am for it. Mama Dev says, check out Vote Save America. I fucking love Vote Save America. Y'all know. Greeley says that Sophia's dad is an ICE agent. Is that true, Sophia? Is your dad really an ICE agent? Let me know. Mika says, I respectfully disagree. I can never vote for the Democratic Party again. Mika, I am ending my live right now. I'm going because it's been over an hour, so I'm dipping out right now. But I would love it if you would come back, Mika, because I do not believe that is a productive philosophy to have. And if you give me an opportunity to chat with you about it, I would love to try to throw some other ideas in your noodle about the value of voting for the Democratic Party. But if you're gone already, no worries. Thank you again for being here, y'all. Do the work. Be good to each other. Be good to yourselves. Self-care is part of the work. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel. One last thing, guys. I'm doing a Reddit Ask Me Anything today at 5 p.m. Pacific time to promote the stand-up special. And I am doing a second live stream tomorrow. Another stand-up Ask Me Anything to promote the stand-up special that is coming out. So Reddit AMA today at 5 p.m. Pacific time. Live stream AMA tomorrow at 5 p.m. Pacific time. You can ask questions about stand-up and comedy in general and whatever. So yeah, I will see you guys then or somewhere else. Same bad time, same bad channel. Take care. Have a great Wednesday, everybody. Bye-bye. Goodbye. Goodbye. Goodbye.